Part 1. The first night on Noxon Heron Road. Most people think the forests between northern Idaho and Montana are empty in winter. They imagine postcard stillness, clean snow, quiet roads, nothing but elk tracks and the hum of the wind sliding between cedars older than the country itself. Those people have never driven Noxon Heron Road after midnight. My name is Wyatt Keller, but everyone calls me WY. I joined the tribal police 4 years ago and transferred to the Selkirk Cabinet Border Unit 2 months before everything went to hell. I thought I knew the woods. My father raised me tracking mule deer across frozen ridges, gutting trout at Bull Lake, listening for weather shifts disguised as whispers between the trees. But nothing prepared me for that first week with Mackenzie Brennan. Mac was 36, sharp-tongued, and the kind of woman who'd survived more winters in these mountains than most men twice her size. She smoked those harsh menthol cigarettes that smelled like mint and cold asphalt. She'd light one during patrol and talk about disappearances that predated our county lines. I thought she was trying to freak me out. I didn't know she was trying to warn me. 1. The call on Noxon Heron Road. It was 23:54 when dispatch crackled through with a simple line. Unit 12, possible vehicle accident. Noxon Heron. No response from caller. Static swallowed the rest. Mac and I exchanged a look. No one used Noxon Heron in winter except truckers, hunters, and people who didn't want to be found. The road was narrow, hemmed in by cliffs on one side and dense forest on the other, with no cell signal for 14 miles. We rolled out in the patrol Tahoe, chains rattling over compacted snow. Bad spot for a wreck, Mac said, tapping us out her cracked window. Ditches are deep as graves. I tried to keep it light. At least we brought shovels. She didn't laugh. Instead, she squinted forward. WY, kill the high beams. I did. The world dimmed to a pale tunnel of falling snow and moonlit branches. The road ahead curved sharply, and around the bend. My breath hitched. A Ford F-150 lay flipped on its roof, crushed against a cedar trunk. Steam hissed from the engine block. Snowflakes melted instantly on the warm metal, sizzling like fat in a skillet. We stopped 20 feet away. Something was wrong. The driver's side window was shattered outward, not inward. Blood splattered the underside of the roof. And the door, what was left of it, was bent open, almost peeled, like something massive had grabbed it and ripped. Mac put a hand on my shoulder. Stay behind me. She walked forward slowly, weapon drawn, boots crunching in the quiet. I followed her flashlight beam across the snow. I wish I hadn't. 2. The half-man. The driver was a local hunter named Jack Vaughn, 42, good guy, had fixed Mac's generator last year. He was also the uncle of Cassidy Vaughn, who would become our first official missing later. We didn't know any of that then. We just knew Jack was dead, because only half of him lay in the snow. The upper half. From the waist up he looked almost peaceful, like he'd fallen asleep while crawling out of the vehicle. His torso was still warm, steam rising from the torn clothing. But from the waist down, there was nothing. Just dangling vertebrae and shredded muscle trailing off into the darkness beneath the truck like ribbons of raw meat. Mac crouched beside him, jaw tight. This wasn't a cougar. This wasn't a damn grizzly. There's no tearing. No bite marks. It's cut. I swallowed, throat dry. Cut with what? Not a what. She pointed with the flashlight. A who? I didn't understand until I saw the tracks. They started 6 feet away, in the snow. Long impressions, too long, almost human in shape but stretched, as if someone had pulled both ends until the feet were a full 17 inches. And the stride length. Nearly 6 feet between steps. The tracks led away from the body, into the tree line. Mac whispered, not again. Again. I echoed. She didn't answer. 3. The blood trail. We followed the tracks. The deeper we walked, the more the wood seemed to absorb sound. No wind. No animal calls. Even our breathing felt muted. After 50 yards, the tracks merged with something else, a drag trail, a smear of blood frozen into the snow. We traced it another 30 yards until my flashlight hit something dark lodged against a stump. A boot. Just a single leather boot, half buried in powder. Inside was a foot. Still wearing a sock. Still warm. Mac exhaled shakily. It took the rest of him. I felt my stomach twist. What took him? She stared past me into the black space between the cedars. You're not ready for the answer. I was about to press her, when all the air in my lungs froze. From somewhere deep in the forest, a whistle floated through the trees. Soft. Playful. Like a child trying to mimic a song they'd only half remembered. Mac's eyes went wide. Why? Back to the truck. Now. But. Now. We ran, boots slipping on the snow, flashlights bobbing. Behind us the whistling grew louder, then multiplied, as if 2, no, 3, maybe 4, voices had joined in, out of sync, overlapping like laughter trapped inside throats that didn't know how to laugh. We didn't speak again until we were inside the Tahoe, doors locked. The forest fell silent. Then Mac said, trembling for the first time since I'd met her. They're awake early this year. For the ranch. The next morning, I tried convincing myself the cold had messed with my head. That shock had distorted the sounds. That the tracks were some kind of freak deformation caused by heat escaping from the wreck. All those lies evaporated by 6:22 a.m. when dispatch sent us to the Callahan Ranch. I'd always liked old Ray Callahan. He let kids fish his pond and told stories about growing up before the highways carved up his family's land. But when we arrived, Ray was standing at the edge of his south pasture, crying into his gloves. God above, what kind of devil did this? He whispered. I didn't have an answer. 19 Angus cows, each weighing over 1,000 pounds, stood arranged in a perfect 5-point star. They weren't lying dead. They were standing. Frozen in place. Their necks had been bent backward 180 degrees, snapped and twisted so that each head stared directly at the sky. Their tongues lolled out, unnaturally long, as if stretched. And their eyes? Gone. Every cow's eye sockets were hollowed out, drained clean. Mac walked the perimeter slowly. They like patterns, she murmured. They always did. Who? I asked. She didn't answer. Not at first. She was kneeling in the center of the star, gloved hand hovering over the ground. Why, she said softly, touch this. I crouched and pressed my fingertips to the earth. And jerked back in shock. The soil was smooth and warm, softer than glass but harder than ice. A black circle of fused ground, glossy and reflective, perfectly round. It was still steaming, despite the freezing air. This shouldn't be possible, I whispered. Mac looked up at me. Her face wasn't scared, it was resigned. It's always like this right before they take someone. My heart slammed against my ribs. Take who? She stood. Whoever they've chosen. 5 expanders. Around noon, Dylan Shaw, the youngest officer on the team, showed up to help photograph the scene. 24 years old, wide-eyed, and from Kansas, a place flat enough that he probably thought a hill was a mountain. What the hell happened to their eyes? He asked. Mac lit a cigarette. Don't ask unless you want nightmares. Dylan forced a laugh. Come on. You two really believe that Whistler folktale crap? Mac and I exchanged a look. He wasn't ready. Not yet. 6, the warning. We returned to the station at dusk. Captain Lauren Decker was waiting inside, arms crossed. You look like you've seen ghosts, she said. Mac handed her the file. Not ghosts. The captain skimmed the photos. Her jaw tightened. Jesus? All right. I want patrol doubled on Bull Lake Road. Keller, you stay with Brennan. Sure, you on call. Mac shot me a glance. A silent message I didn't understand. Not yet. After the debrief, I caught up to her outside. Mac, I said, just tell me what's going on. What did we hear last night? She stared into the tree line behind the station, where the last daylight died between the trunks. You heard a whistler. My blood turned cold. Like the stories? Tall things in old legends. They are not stories, she said. They are here. They move between the cedars like they are walking through doorways. And once they wait, they don't stop. I took a shaky breath. So what do we do? Mac crushed her cigarette beneath her boot. We pray they are not hungry. 7. The night before everything broke. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw Jack Vaughn's spine dangling beneath his ribs. I saw the cow staring at nothing with hollow eyes. And I heard that whistle, soft at first, then doubling, tripling, becoming a choir of childish voices humming the same broken melody. Around 3:40 I saw lights moving in the trees near the station. Slow. White. Drifting. I gripped my radio and whispered, Mac, you outside? No response. The lights moved higher, rising above the tree line, stretching into elongated shapes, too tall, too thin. And then the whistling began again. Closer this time. Much closer. The radio crackled to life. But it wasn't Mac's voice. It was a child. Or something trying to sound like one. We see you, WYATT. The patrol room lights flickered. The shapes in the trees leaned closer. Smiling, though they had no mouths. Part 2. I didn't sleep for the next 40 hours. Part of it was adrenaline, part of it was guilt, and most of it was that every time I shut my eyes, I heard Mac screaming through the radio again, that strangled, half-whispered, half-choked, terrified realization. WY, they don't have eyes, just hollow pits. WY, they are laughing. Then the crunch. Then the silence. We had officers out all night and half the next day. County deputies, neighboring tribal PD from Troy and Libby, even a few volunteers from the fire station who really should have stayed home. But it didn't matter. No tracks. No scent. No thermal signature. Nothing except the crooked trail of frozen blood that ended directly at the sheer granite cliff like the thing had simply walked straight up. Or vanished into thin air. By noon the next day, Captain Decker called off the official search. Too dangerous, too cold, too many nearly hypothermic officers. But I stayed. I stayed because I couldn't make myself drive away. The trees watched me the entire time, I could feel it. And even though I didn't see any whistlers, their absence felt deliberate. Like they were waiting for something. Like they were letting me move freely, for now. It was nearly sunset when I finally drove back to the station in Heron. Dylan Shaw, the rookie, was hovering by the front desk chewing gum like his life depended on it. His eyes looked sunken and red. You look like hell, he said the second he saw me. You should have seen the cliff, I muttered. He didn't laugh at the joke. He just swallowed hard and said, WY. Ray Callahan called again. The cows. There's more. My stomach tightened. More. Yeah. 3 more. All in the exact same position. Like something moved them overnight. I hadn't even processed the meaning of that sentence when I heard heavy, slow footsteps behind me. Captain Decker, still in her winter coat, her breath forming clouds in the heated hallway. You, she pointed at me, office. Now. I followed her inside, where she closed the door, locked it, and dropped her voice into a low, controlled whisper. Mercer was right, she said. She always used last names when she was serious. What do you mean? She leaned back against the desk, arms crossed tightly across her chest. I checked the old case files. The disappearances in 41. The cattle mutilations in 23. The 3 missing hikers in 09. They all started the same way, a vehicle torn open, someone ripped in half, then the livestock arranged in a pattern. I swallowed. So you believe me now? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something wrapped in a paper towel. She opened it. A root. twisted, dried, blackened, except for the faintest smear of red at the tip. This, Decker said, was inside one of the cow's mouths. Lodged deep in the throat. What is it? We don't know, she said. But the lab tech refused to open the evidence bag. He said it, hummed. I took a half step back. Decker continued. There's something else. This morning, 2 hikers reported hearing a woman screaming near Bull Lake. They said it sounded mangled. Like multiple voices at once. My lungs turned to ice. Mac. I didn't wait for permission. I grabbed my rifle, my winter gear, and drove straight to Bull Lake at 80 miles per hour, skidding across the icy corners like a man possessed. The sun had already dropped behind the Selkirks by the time I arrived. The lake was half frozen, pine silhouettes bending under their coats of fresh snow. It was quiet. Too quiet. I walked the trail toward Ross Creek cedars, my flashlight bouncing off the massive trunks. These weren't normal trees. They were ancient, older than most of the towns in the region. Their scale was almost religious, giant pillars stretching into darkness. And somewhere between them, something breathed. A faint, cold gust. Wet. Rhythmic. I raised my rifle and swept the beam across the path. Mac. I whispered. Mac, if you're here. The whistle started behind me. Not a tune. Just one long, rising note, like a child warming up before a song. I spun around so fast I slipped. The beam of my flashlight jerked wildly across the cedars. Nothing. But the whistle came again. This time to my left. Then my right. 3 voices. High. Playful. Too close. I forced my breathing steady and stepped backward, never lowering my rifle. Then the trees shifted. Something tall, impossibly tall, slid between 2 trunks 20 yards ahead. No footsteps. No crunch of snow. Just motion, like a shadow gliding through water. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mac! I shouted. And then I heard something that almost made my knees give out. A laugh. Not human. Not even close. A layered, gurgling exhale, like a dozen children trying to giggle through the same throat. It echoed through the cedars until every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. I almost did. But something on the snow caught my eye. A glove. Black. Torn. Blood frozen on the fingertips. Mac's glove. I grabbed it, stuffed it in my jacket, and forced myself to follow the tracks leading deeper into the grove. They weren't her footprints, too big, too widely spaced, too shallow for something that size. I should have turned back. But I couldn't. I followed the tracks until the trees opened into a clearing, a bowl-shaped depression surrounded by the biggest cedars I'd ever seen. And in the center was a man. Or what was left of one. His body was hanging between the trees, suspended by something I couldn't see, skin stretched tight around bone like wet parchment. His face was frozen in a silent scream. Jesus Christ, I breathed. Then the figure twitched, not the body, but something behind it. A shadow. No, multiple shadows. Long-limbed, narrow-bodied, each with that void where a face should be. The hollow-eyed. The whistlers. Every one of them turned toward me at the same time, heads tilting in perfect synchronization. My legs locked. The tallest one, at least 9 feet, slid forward, stopping just 10 feet from me. It didn't walk, it drifted, inches above the snow. Its chest expanded, like inhaling deeply. Then it whistled. A low, melodic note that made the roots of the cedars vibrate. The others joined in, a chorus of off-key, childlike harmonies that shook the air around me. My teeth rattled. My vision blurred. I raised my rifle and fired 3 times. The bullets passed through the creature like smoke. It didn't react. It didn't need to. The whistling stopped. Dead silence stabbed the clearing. Then, behind me, a voice I knew better than my own whispered. "Why, don't." I turned. Mac. her skin pale as the snow, lips cracked, eyes pitch black. She stood perfectly still, hands hanging limply at her sides. But her mouth wasn't moving. The voice wasn't hers. The whistler's chorus came through her throat, like they were trying on her voice, stretching it to fit. "Wyatt Keller," she said, or they said, through her. "You walked into the cedars. That means you are almost ours." I stepped toward her. "Mac. Look at me." Her head twitched violently to one side, like a broken puppet. Then she whispered, her own voice, weak, buried under layers of alien tone. "WY, run." Before I could react, the whistler behind her rose higher, its limbs unfolding like a spider stretching after sleep. Its hollow face rotated toward me, empty but somehow still focused. Mac screamed. Not words. Just agony. And the world went black. I woke up in the snow. It was morning. Cold sunlight filtered through the cedars. Frost had formed on my eyelashes. My head throbbed like I'd been hit with a bat. Mac was gone. The whistlers were gone. Only one thing remained, pressed neatly into the snow beside me. Her badge. And under it, carved into the ice with something razor-sharp. 111. I staggered to my feet, heart pounding with a single, unbearable truth. They weren't killing her. They were keeping her. Preparing her. Because the countdown had already started. And I was next. Part 3, The Keeper's Last Winter. Snowfall in the cabinets has a way of burying more than tracks. It buries sound, memory, even the shape of a man if he stands still long enough. By February, most of my nights blurred into a loop, patrol, the whistling, the slow ascent toward Scotchman Peak, and then the quiet coming back where I discover something missing, another finger, another memory, another piece of myself whittled away by things that don't breathe. 1. Mackenzie's shadow. Mac hadn't been the same since the night on the peak. She stood upright again. She answered questions. She even joked once, though the laugh came half a second too late, like she had to remember how to do it. But nights were different. Every full moon I'd wake to find her standing in my doorway, pupils blacked out like spilled ink, blood, thick, tar black, dripping from her nose. Her whisper didn't belong to her anymore, a string of syllables grinding like rocks under ice. W.Y. Kelthrin Sheevrek, the watchers below. The first time I tried to touch her, her skin burned like glacier water. The second time, she snapped awake with no memory of standing there at all. By the third month, we stopped pretending she was recovering. The whistlers left a mark on her. And I wasn't sure any of us would survive the final price of it. 2. The baby in room 9. Maddie Holt gave birth on a Tuesday morning in the Troy County Clinic. A late spring storm rattled the windows while she wailed through contractions, nurses shouting for more blankets and another 4. Nobody knew who the father was, not even Maddie. But everyone in that room felt something wrong coming before it arrived. The child slid out silent, not a single cry. I was called in less than 10 minutes later. Room 9 smelled like antiseptic and cold stone. The baby lay swaddled tight, eyes black as obsidian, no white at all, just endless dark. No belly button. No warmth. And when it exhaled, the sound wasn't a breath. It was a tiny whistle, faint but perfectly melodic, like a child blowing on a bottle. One of the nurses fainted. Another refused to go near it ever again. Maddie held her baby like it was made of glass. "It likes the trees," she whispered. They talked to me while I carried it. I asked what she meant. Her eyes rolled upward, showing too much white. They said it would open the path wider. 3. The death of Eli Hawthorne. I drove straight to Eli Hawthorne's cabin near Bull Lake. The wind off the water bit like needles. I found him sitting by the fire, wrapped in 3 blankets, sweat cold on his forehead. His breath rattled like loose gravel. "You're late," he murmured. "As late as I can afford to be," I answered. He coughed, crimson flecking his lips. "You think giving them your blood saved her? They don't trade. They collect. Always have." I felt something in me crack. You told me the ritual would keep them back. I told you what would keep you alive long enough. His hand trembled as it closed around my sleeve. W.Y., listen. You're not the keeper. I blinked hard. You said. You're the lure, he whispered. The one they let run free so the others follow. He convulsed, fingers digging into my wrist. They are hungry again, boy. They want more than one. They want both of you. His eyes widened, then rolled back. Eli Hawthorne collapsed forward, dead before I could catch him. The fire sputtered. Outside, the cedars began to whistle. For the road where sound doesn't stick. 2 nights later, Mac insisted on patrolling with me. She looked healthier, too healthy, like something was wearing her body properly for the first time in months. We took the Noxon Heron Road, always a mistake after dark. Snow stripped the world down to headlights and the distant silhouette of the mountains. I kept feeling like something was pacing alongside the truck, just beyond the tree line. W.Y., Mac said suddenly. Pull over. My stomach tightened. Why? She pointed ahead. Look. A figure stood in the middle of the road. Tattered clothing, long tangled hair. Maddie Holt. Barefoot in the snow, wearing nothing but a hospital gown soaked in frost. I slammed the brakes. Mac drew her sidearm. Maddie swayed, head tilted. She wasn't alone. The black-eyed baby stood beside her, standing, upright, barely 5 months old. Its shadow stretched twice its height. I stepped out slowly. Maddie. No answer. Mac whispered, W.Y., look behind her. Shapes moved between the trees. Tall. Pale. Hollow-eyed. 5 at first. Then 10. Then more. Their whistles rose, layered, harmonizing like a playground full of children humming through cracked teeth. Maddie's lips parted. They want you to come home now. The baby turned its head and every tree around us bent slightly inward, like bowing. Mac shouted, get back in the truck. 5. The fall at Bull Lake. We sped toward Bull Lake, fishtailing on the icy road. Something followed us, several somethings, keeping pace in the dark. At the shoreline, the truck died. Just died. Like a hand crushed the engine from the inside. Mac leaned forward, eyes wide. W.Y. They are forming a circle. Shapes gathered at the lake's edge. Tall, faceless silhouettes. Their feet hovered inches above the snow, moving without sound. Whistling began around us, spinning like a funnel. Move! Mac screamed. We sprinted for the tree line. A whistler glided in from the right, arms long enough to touch the ground without bending. It reached for Mac. I shoved her aside. The thing's arm sliced through my sleeve, cold burning straight to the bone. My vision blurred. Mac dragged me behind a fallen cedar. Her breath shook. W.Y., your hand. I looked. One of my fingers was simply gone, cleaved clean off, no blood, like it had never been there. That's 4, I muttered weakly. She held me by the collar. We can't keep doing this. They are wearing you down. I tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. That was the plan. What? I'm the lure, Mac. Her face froze. Eli told me before he died. But Mac didn't look shocked. She looked knowing. W.Y., she whispered. I think I always knew. 6, Scotchman Peak, final calling. By dusk the whistlers were gone, but the whistling remained, faint, constant, layered. There are places you walk to in life. And there are places that call you until walking isn't a choice anymore. We climbed Scotchman Peak together the next night. Snow whipped sideways. Trees bent from wind or from the weight of watching. I carried the last offering, my mother's ring. My blood. And the memory of whoever I used to be before winter turned me into something breakable. At the summit, the world fell silent. 41 whistlers formed a ring around the ridge, towering like frozen statues. Their hollow eyes drank in the moonless dark. Mac stepped toward the center without hesitation. Her breath left her in white streams. Her skin glowed pale like theirs. "Why," she whispered, "I think this is where I was always meant to end." "No." The word came out cracked. She smiled, "A broken, painful thing. They won't stop if you give yourself. They'll just start again when you're gone." The whistlers leaned forward. One raised a hand, beckoning. Mac shuddered. "But if I go willingly, maybe they sleep another century." I grabbed her arm. "You're not doing this. I won't let you." Her pupils vanished into black. "Why, it was never you they wanted." I felt the truth hit like a falling tree, the rituals, the blood, the visions, the sleepless nights. Mac was the chosen one. Not me. The whistler's whistling rose to a hungry crescendo. Snow spiraled upward in a column. Something ancient cracked open beneath the ice. Mac stepped forward. I lunged. She shoved me back with strength that wasn't hers. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Anything. Remember who I was, not what they made me." She placed my mother's ring in my palm. Then she walked into the circle. Whistlers closed around her. Their bodies folded like curtains. Snow burst in a white explosion. When the wind died, Mac was gone. The whistlers watched me. Silent. Waiting. I don't remember walking down the mountain. I just remember the sound they made. A child's whistle. Soft. Playful. Hungry. 7. The last patrol. Weeks passed. Snow melted. Tracks reappeared. So did the whistling. Tonight, at 3:17 a.m., parked beneath the ancient cedars, I saw them on the ridge. 37 whistlers. Tall. Patient. Waiting.